Hey folks, today we're taking a look at the first of presumably many expansions for the smash hit party game King of Tokyo. This is the Power Up expansion. Power Up with an exclamation point, actually. And in this expansion, it actually adds a new monster into the mix, so you could actually theoretically have up to a 7-player game of King of Tokyo if you so desire. And it also adds a brand new game mechanic in the form of evolution cards for every monster in the game, including the new one that just came out with Power Up. Is this expansion essential? Is it worth getting if you've already got King of Tokyo? Well, let's take a look, and I'll tell you what I think. Well, this is the entirety of what comes in the King of Tokyo Power Up expansion box. First and foremost, you have a new character called Panda, and his base, the cardboard that they use for him is actually slightly thinner than the actual base that comes with him, or any of the other bases, so he always falls out. Anyways, he also comes with his own little player board, and in and of himself, he is no different than the other monsters in King of Tokyo, and none of the other monsters are different from each other. That's just kind of how the game works. Except for the fact that the other thing that's in the King of Tokyo Power-Up expansion box are evolution cards. And that's what these are here. And I have them kind of staggered in a stack because there's a different little set of evolution cards for every monster in the game. So, for instance, you'll look at the other side of these cards amongst all the text, and you will have the name of the monster up here. So at the beginning of the game, each monster is going to get their own individual stack of evolution cards. They're going to shuffle them up and put them down in front of them. Now, you can do some variance with this, and you can choose that everyone starts with one of these evolution cards. But assuming that you don't actually start with evolution cards, you're going to have to earn them. The way you do that is through the dice rolling. Now, in the original game of King of Tokyo, if you roll a heart, you're going to heal, unless you're in Tokyo, in which case it does nothing. But it doesn't matter how many hearts you get, you're only going to heal as many as you have damage against you. If you're using the Power Up expansion, which is optional, you have the choice of trying to earn evolutions by rolling and keeping 3 hearts. Not only will you still heal 3 if you have at least 3 damage against you, but if you roll and keep a set of 3 hearts, you get to draw an evolution card. If you actually manage to get 6 hearts, you'd get 2 evolution cards, and so forth. And after you shuffle your deck, you'll just randomly take a card off the top, and only you get to see it. Now, again, there's other variants where you actually get to draw 2 cards, keep one, put the other one under. That's entirely up to you. But there's 2 types of evolutions. There's temporary evolutions, and then there's permanent evolutions. Temporary evolutions, much like discard cards from the gear pile, once you decide to use them, they're just going to go away. They'll put them in your own little personal discard pile. Permanent evolutions will stay in front of you. Now, you do not have to use these cards right away, either the temporary or the permanent. When you draw your evolution, you can look at it, leave it face down in front of you, and whenever you want it to apply, you will declare that you're using it if it applies, and then you'll use it. If it's temporary, it's gone. If it's permanent, it stays. And all of the different types of evolution cards are key to the different monsters and do different things. Now, Panda Kai's are actually very, very strange, I would say, probably the strangest of any of them. His permanent evolution Bamboo Supply says at the start of each turn, you can add 1 energy on this card or take 1 energy off this card. Bamboozle says you can discard this. It's a temporary one. When someone purchases a card, return the card they purchased and the energy they spent. Choose a card that they can't afford, and they purchase that card. Very, very strange. He has at least 1 in here that says that if he rolls and keeps 1 of every single die, that he will actually get an extra turn and some extra life. It's really crazy. I can't find it right this moment. Alienoids have to do with gear, or at least most of them do. So superior alien technology. They actually have extra little tokens that come with this expansion as well, and lets you purchase shoddy tech, which is basically you get gear cards cheaper, but you have to put little tokens on them, and there's a chance they'll break later on. All different kinds here. Mecha Dragon is all about damage, as you might expect. Mecha Blast, temporary evolution. You can discard this evolution to deal 2 extra damage. Simian Scamper for the King. You can discard this evolution when you retreat from Tokyo. You take no damage this turn. The King's cards are kind of all about staying in Tokyo and getting victory points or leaving when you need to. Gigazor is kind of balanced as far as defense and offense, but mostly offense, I would say. Cyber Bunny, the fan favorite, has a lot of cool stuff involving gear cards as well and victory points. But basically, They all give a little bit of extra flavor and special abilities to the different monsters, but only if you can roll and keep those 3 hearts and trade in for them. And that's basically all it's in Power Up. It's always a tough thing to say whether or not an expansion is essential, quote unquote, for a board game. There's a lot of games that live or die by their expansions, especially games that have something like episodic content, like the Pathfinder adventure game or Legends of Andor. But for most games, just adding in an expansion, just some new cards and some new little tricks and components isn't really necessary. Or at least we, as the board gaming consumers who already buy too many games as it is, really do not want expansions that are absolutely necessary in order to make the base game playable. And in that regard, Power Up is just a normal expansion that I would say is not essential. That doesn't mean that it's not fun. And in fact, personally, I and most of the other people that I play King of Tokyo with would never consider playing without the evolution cards now that we have them. It's really not even an option. But having said that, it doesn't change the base game of King of Tokyo in a fundamental enough way that I have to tell you, go out and get Power Up right now. It just doesn't. Other games are like that. This is not. The evolution mechanic is neat, but it's only neat so long as you're actually using it in the game. Many, many times, I personally, and many other people that I've played with, went through an entire game without ever drawing an evolution card. Many other times, I've drawn evolution cards that really didn't do anything. They didn't change my personal gameplay in any type of way, and they didn't actually help me to win or help me to lose or anything like that. Other times, it has been kind of game-breaking for certain players, but it's the random chaotic nature of King of Tokyo that leads me to suggest that this is just sort of more of what the game was already delivering as far as wild and erratic turns that could be either, okay, here, take the dice, or, I just destroyed you all. This just adds on more to that. But again, that's fine. It's a fun little thematic thing. The reason you would want to get this is if you just, like I said, thematic. You really want those monsters that you're playing as to have a little more flavor to them. And in that regard, this kind of succeeds. Every monster's cards have a different type of theme. Now, whether or not that theme actually makes sense, that's up to you. I would say that the Kraken's theme is a little weird because he's all about healing. He or she, I don't even know. And I don't think, healing a lot when I think of a Kraken. On the other hand, the alien, who no one ever likes to use, but nevertheless, the alien's all about getting like gear cards and upgrading, which is pretty cool. And the king is themed towards actually winning via victory points, which is a neat thing. And some of the obvious ones are Mecha Dragon and Gigazor, who are all about attack, and that makes sense. But they do it in different ways. So that is why you would want this expansion. If you just want your monsters to have more flavor. If you don't care about that, and you play with a lot of people who don't care about that, this is not essential for you. Now, the extra character, again, it's the same thing. None of the characters are that drastically different than each other that you just have to have the panda. Now, if you want the panda, if you think that having a little panda standee and having a little panda board and the wacky evolution cards that he has, because they really are strange. He has the strangest evolution cards of any of the monsters. If you really need that, then by all means. But again, it's just more of a flavor thing. So I guess it makes it sound like I'm wishy-washy about this expansion. I'm really not. I like it, and I'm glad that I have it. But I will also say this. I got King of Tokyo after a bunch of other people in my group had it. It took me a few months before I decided I want to have my own copy for when those people aren't here, and I want to bust it out and play it. Even after that, it took me another 2 to 3 months to get the Power Up expansion because I had played with it and I liked it, but I didn't feel the rush, the urge to get it. And then I finally got it, and I'm like, okay, we'll always use this. So I have a feeling that all of the expansions for King of Tokyo will be that way. But nevertheless, if you love the game, if you want to have every part of the game, then in that case, it is essential. But hey, it's King of Tokyo. It's a great game. Either way, what can I tell you? So, my name is Nick. This is Board Game Brawl, reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.